Jawami' al-Kalim, the comprehensive speech of the Prophet ﷺ. Because this hadith, although it's very brief in its wording, this hadith, wallahi, is jami', very comprehensive. It contains so many things as you're going to see. First of all, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said, a man said to the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't mention the name of the man. And this is very common. People would come and they would ask the Prophet ﷺ questions. The person who was narrating the hadith, it doesn't necessarily mean that he didn't know the name of the person. But in many cases they didn't mention the name of the person because al-ahkam, rulings in Islam, they are not connected to people. The rulings are connected to sayings and actions. Al-ahkam, muta'alliqa, the rulings are connected to al-aqwal wal-af'al, sayings and actions. La ashkhas, not to people. So this is one thing I want to say about that. The fact that he didn't mention a name doesn't take away from the hadith, because the name is not really what concerns us. What concerns us is the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. That's number one. Number two, the man said, "Awsini, advise me." We said this before, that the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, when they used to go to the Messenger of Allah and ask questions, they didn't do what many of us do today. Many of us do today, if we ask questions, oftentimes the questions we ask have something to do with someone else. We're trying to get some clarification regarding something we said during a debate or a discussion with someone. But the way the companions were, may Allah be pleased with them, is that they would come and ask questions that would be of benefit to them. They wanted to know for their own selves, for their own benefit. Alright? Another thing we see from this hadith, brothers and sisters, is that the Sahaba had they gave ihtimam, great importance to ilm, knowledge. You find this type of thing was happening often. A man would come and say, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, tell me what action can I do that will allow me to earn Allah's love, and at the same time the people will love me." Another man came and said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, tell me who is the best of the people." Another man came, "Oh, Messenger of Allah, tell me what's the most beloved action to Allah." They would ask questions like that. They were very, very concerned. And from here we learn something very, very important, is that لا ينتفع بالعلم, no one will benefit from knowledge إلا من يهتم به وسأل عنه, except the one who gives it concern and asks about it. قال الله تعالى لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته آيات للسائلين. Verily, there were in Yusuf and his brothers ayat, signs, للسائلين, for those who are seeking and asking. السائلون هم الذين ينتفعون. The ones who are asking, they are the ones that are going to benefit. And we see this. Abu Hurairah, the narrator of the hadith, is an excellent example. He spent only 3 years with Rasulullah ﷺ, and he is Sahabi number 1 in narrating the most hadith. Another person who benefited tremendously, Nafi', the freed slave of Abdullah ibn Umar, radiallahu anhuma. He was a slave. He was with Abdullah ibn Umar, from what he said, for 30 years he lived with Abdullah ibn Umar and traveled with him. And he would ask him questions and he would watch. He's a slave. He was so valuable that a man came to Abdullah ibn Umar, Abu Ja'far. He came to him and he said, "I want to give you 10,000 dinars for Nafi'. I want to buy him from him." 10,000 dinars. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma, he went to his wife and he told her, did you hear what I'm being offered for Nafi'? She said, "No, what are you being offered?" He told her, 10,000 dinars. She said, that sounds good. You should take that. He said, "By Allah, he's free." I set him free. After he's offered 10,000. You know what dinar is? That's gold. Dirham is the silver. Dinar is the gold. He was offered 10,000 for Nafi. But Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma was one of those people who used to love to give from what he loves and treasures. He set Nafi free. Do you know who was the main student of Nafi? Who from the second generation took the hadith of Nafi? Malik ibn Anas. Imam Malik. Imam Malik is Nafi's #1 student. Nafi had 5, what they call tabaqats, levels of students. Imam Malik was in the first category. If you read the Muwatta of Imam Malik, you'll find many hadith in there from Nafi. So much so the Imam al-Bukhari, he believed that the most precious sanad, the most valuable chain, he called it as-silsila al-dhahabiyya, the golden chain of narration. He believed that the most important one, the most authentic, is Malik, on the authority of Nafi, on the authority of Abdullah ibn Umar. Subhanallah.
Muwatta Malik, right?
The Muwatta. The Muwatta of Imam Malik is, mashallah, it was compiled before Sahih al-Bukhari. It's a very valuable book of hadith. Very, very valuable. From the time the book was compiled up until now, there is more than 150 explanations for this book. It's a very valuable book. Anyways, this man came to the Prophet ﷺ and said, Ya Rasulullah, awsini, give me advice. Awsini comes from the word wasiyah, which is concise advice. Give me brief advice. The Prophet ﷺ said, La taghdab, don't become angry. He asked this question again, okay, give me some more advice. La taghdab, don't become angry. And he asked the third time, the Prophet ﷺ gave him this. He said, La taghdab. Some may ask, why did the Prophet give this advice to him? Because he would be asked the same question by many people, but he would give different answers. Some scholars say, one explanation for this is that he would give different answers based on what he knew about the people who were asking the questions. And that's from the fiqh of the student, the imam, the teacher, is to take into consideration the people you're talking to. We talked about that in our conference on da'wah, right? And, so this man who was asking the question, it said that this man was known in the community to be someone who is sari'ul al-ghadab, someone who becomes angry quickly. Right? He becomes angry quickly. And there are people like this. They become, it don't take much. 0 to 100. Blow a gasket. Right? And so the Prophet ﷺ, who was the Imam, who was the Imam for everyone, the best example, he gave him the advice that is most appropriate for him. It's important for people when you give da'wah, when you teach people, to always start with what's most important and then move on to what is next and important. فَإِذَا سُئِلَ الْمُفْتِي, if someone is asked, if the mufti is asked a question regarding something, وَكَانَ السَّائِلْ فِي حَاجَةٍ أَشَدِّ غَيْرِ مَا سَأَلَ عَنْهُ, and the one who asked the question is more in need of learning something that he didn't ask about, ينبغي له أن يعلمه ما يحتاج إليه قبل أن يجيب سؤاله. It is important for the teacher, the imam, whoever, to teach that person what he is most in need of before answering the question that he asks. Sometimes you can tell from the question that someone asks that there are a number of things that they don't know, right? And you'll find that sometimes. Sometimes the scholars, someone will come and ask them a question, and the sheikh can tell from the question that's being asked that this person doesn't know A, B, and C, and so he will explain those things before answering the question that the person asked. And you see this a lot. You see this in the story of Yusuf. When the people were in prison, they came to him and they asked him to interpret their dreams. Before he interpreted their dream, and of course they were kuffar, they were disbelievers. So before he interpreted their dream, he said, Ya sahib bin as-sijn, O companions of the prison, Arbabun متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار. Are many gods better? Or is Allah al-Wahid, the one, al-Qahar, the irresistible? ما تعبدون إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم. You don't worship except idols with you and your forefathers have given names to. ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان. Allah hasn't given any approval. Allah didn't sanction that. إن الحكم إلا لله. Verily the decision is only for Allah. أمر ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه. He has ordered that you do not worship except Him. ذلك الدين القيم ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون. That is the upright, that is the true religion, but most people don't know. And then after that, he answered their question. So he first responded to what they were more in need of before responding to what it was that they were asking about. This is very important, brothers and sisters in Islam. Well, you know, you work in a company and there are non-Muslim employee co-workers there, and they come to you and they ask you, why do the Muslim women cover their hair? Why do we see some of the women cover their face? Is it true that you guys cannot eat pork? You know this person is not Muslim. There's nothing wrong with answering the question, but before answering the question, especially if you have time, give them some introductory words.
Indirect dawah also, right?
That's right, absolutely, absolutely. Allah gives us opportunities to give dawah many times, we just don't realize it. So the Sahaba, may Allah be pleased with them, they possess hirs, great enthusiasm for seeking knowledge and all that is good. It is from wisdom to treat each sickness with that which is most appropriate for it. Rulings are tied to sayings and actions, not people. Rulings, ahkam, are associated with sayings and actions, not people. Tayyib, ghadab, anger. Prophet ﷺ told the man in this hadith, La taghdab, don't become angry. Does this mean anger is evil, bad? Does this mean that it's haram to become angry?
Well, anger is always, you know, it's discouraged and always being said then not to do that.
Al-ghadab, anger, amrun tabi'i.
Exactly.
Amrun fitri. Anger is something natural. يعني the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, يعني هذه الوصية, this advice of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, ليست نهي عن ما يكون في القلب. This isn't a prohibition of something that naturally occurs in the chest, in the heart. وإنما هو نهي عن أثر الغضب. But what it is a prohibition of the typical results of anger. Al-ghadab anwa'. There's different types of ghadab, right? There is one type of ghadab that's praiseworthy, anger. The Prophet ﷺ said, Man ahabba lillah, wa abghada lillah, wa a'ta lillah, wa mana'a lillah, faqad istakmala al-iman. This is the hadith of Abu Umama al-Bahili, radiyallahu anhu. He said, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, whoever loves for Allah, whoever hates lillah for Allah, wa a'ta, and gives lillah for Allah, wa mana'a, and withholds lillah, faqad istakmala al-iman. He has completed, perfected his iman. So this type of anger is praiseworthy. When you become angry for the sake of Allah. How is that? When you see the haram being done in the open, publicly. When you see the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being disrespected. So you become angry for the sake of Allah. This type of anger doesn't result in what is displeasing to Allah. As for the anger, the other type of anger, which is natural, we all feel it sometimes, right? Then the Prophet ﷺ this hadith is a discouragement from and a prohibition from doing those things that are typically the consequence, the result of becoming angry. What happens when people become angry typically? They act out of character. They say things that they can't take back. How many marriages have come to an end because of anger? How many friendships have come to an end? Someone is angry and he says words that you can't take back? How many people who have committed crimes? They have physically harmed other people, taken the lives of other people, while under the influence of ghadab, anger. So this is what the Prophet ﷺ is prohibiting in this hadith. He is not, anger is something natural. There's something else you need to know, brothers and sisters, about anger. There is something known as madakhilu ash-shaytan, entrances of the shaitan. Ash-shaytan, Satan, there are ways, channels, which he enters the son of Adam. And you need to know what they are. Because Allah says about shaitan what? Shaitan, inna shaytana lakum adu. Verily shaitan is for you what? Your enemy. فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًّا. So treat him as an enemy. If you have an enemy, someone wants to harm you, don't you want to know who he is? Don't you want to know what are his strengths and what are his weaknesses? How he can get to you? There are three ways he gets to the son of Adam. The first, al-ghafla, heedlessness. The second, al-shahwa, desire. The third, al-ghadab, anger. When a person is heedless, it's easy for him to penetrate you. When a person is experiencing and feeling shahwa, desire, it's easy for him to enter. And when you are angry, as they say last but not least, when a person is angry, the door is wide open. He comes walk. He doesn't have to sneak in. He walks in. This is why when you are angry, Islam says what? What does Islam teach us? Islam teaches if you're moving, if you're walking, be still. If you're talking, stop talking. If you're standing, sit down. Right? The anger is very, very intense. Go make wudu. Go make wudu. Right? There are things you can physically do. Such as what I just mentioned. Sit down, stop walking. There are things that you can say. Like what? A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. The Prophet ﷺ was one day with in the company of his companions, and there were two men. They were in it with each other. And one of them, he was really trying very hard to hold himself, to keep his composure, but the other one was just saying the what they call the magic words, just insulting him. And we human beings, you can only take but so much. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw that, he said, I know something which if he were to say this right now, that which he is feeling, what he expects, it will go away from him. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Shaitan is created from what? Fire. Ghadab, anger, is like a coal, burning coal inside of the chest, and shaitan likes to make it rage. And then when you become so angry and you allow yourself to lose control, you become like a person who's in the passenger seat of the car and Iblis is in the driver's seat. What's going to happen when that car finally stops? A lot of stuff's going to happen. Someone's going to get hit. Someone's going to get killed. Right? A lot of things are going to happen. So, this is very, very important. ينبغي البعد عن أسباب الشر وما يخشى مضرته. It is important for a Muslim to stay far away from the asbab, the causes, the things that lead to ashar, evil. To stay far away from it. If you know that you have a weakness, then be mindful of that weakness. You know it don't take much to get you to become angry? Be mindful of it. Don't talk when you're angry. That's the problem with most of us. We talk when we're angry. You say things, you can never take those things back. I'm going to share something with you. the author of this book here, one of the scholars, he says, this hadith is a proof that al-ghadab, anger, miftah li kathir min ash-shurur. It is a key to many of the evils. Al-qawliya wal-fi'liya, both evils that come out of the mouth and evils done with the limbs. Wa'a'laha, and the worst of those evils, al-kufr wal-qatl, is disbelief in killing. Look at the brothers of Yusuf. What is it that caused them to become, what is it that caused them to do what they did to their brother? First, al-hasad, envy. Envy. They were envious of their brother. Jealous. And then what? They didn't stop there with the jealousy, they talking about it. That's one of the ways you get angry too, when you're talking about something a lot. Shame on our father. Shame on our father. He loves Yusuf more than us. And you know what's really interesting about the whole thing is that it's not, I mean, Yaqub alayhi salam is a prophet. That means what? He's just. He's fair. For those of us who have children, isn't the youngest child usually the one that we give special attention to?
Of course.
When the older ones, when they were young, they were getting the same special attention. But they were jealous of Yusuf alayhi salam. They were jealous of Yusuf not because of anything Yusuf did, but because of their father. So what did they come up with the solution? Let's kill Yusuf. Yusuf didn't do anything to them. Uqtulu Yusuf. Kill Yusuf. Right? So Yusuf alayhi salam didn't do anything to his brothers. But because of a problem they have with their father, and this is why I'm mentioning this. Anger, when you become angry and you allow yourself to become a passenger or you become a passenger instead of the driver, you do things that are not reasonable, not logical. Wow, what the man do? And Yusuf alayhi salam, if you follow this story, I'm doing some preparation for Ramadan, so this is fresh on my mind, so these things are coming up. But if you look at the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, he was oppressed throughout the story. His brothers oppressed him, and then those women oppressed him too. When he didn't give in to do what they wanted to do, let's punish him or throw him in jail. Right? So he got it when he was a kid, and he got it later on. Allah Musta'an. So it's important for a Muslim to stay away from the things that lead to the evil. And if you know that you are a person who easily becomes angry, and there are people like this in our community, in our families, you got to check that. You got to really pay very close attention to that. فَالْغَضَبُ مَرَاتِبُ. Anger is of various different levels. We already said, فَأَفْضَلُهُ الْغَضَبْ لِلَّهِ. The best of them is the anger that one feels lillah, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَسْوَأُهُ السَّخْطُ عَلَى قَضَاءِ اللَّهِ. And the worst form of it is when you become disappointed because of something that Allah decreed. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed that, and you're not happy about it. So when the Prophet ﷺ said, "La taghdab," don't become angry, or avoid becoming angry, this is not necessarily a prohibition of anger in and of itself, but this is a prohibition of, one, the typical results of becoming angry. Two, this is an encouragement to avoid the asbab, the causes that lead to anger. But also, three, al-amr bi asbab itfa' al-ghadab. This is also a command to do those things that's going to put out the flames. Right? Ghadab is like fire. Put out the flames. Stop talking. Stop moving. Right? If you're standing, sit down. Don't make any decisions. There's a saying, don't make long-term decisions due to a temporary feeling. Don't make long-term decisions due to a temporary feeling. When you're angry, you say things you really don't mean. As I said in the beginning, how many divorces happen in our community because of this? There's a story about a man who became so mad with his wife He said to her, I divorce you as many times as the stars in the sky. Wow. What kind of divorce is that? How cruel. And when you said that to your wife, she's never going to forget that. I divorce you as many times as the stars in the sky. Why do you think in Islam we have something called the revocable divorce? That's 2 times. Then we have the irrevocable divorce, which is the 3rd time. It's not just for the purpose of verifying whether or not the woman is pregnant, but it's also because Allah knows His creation. He knows that if we're living in the same house for 3 months during the iddah period with her, and we're still interacting with her and she with him, there's a great possibility of what? They're going to reconcile. Can't tell you how many people I've spoken to will call and be like, I did something, I divorced my wife, I really didn't mean it, does it count? That's one of the most popular questions, which is shameful, ya ikhwan. Allah put talaq in the hand of the man, He didn't put it in the hand of the woman. Why? Why is it women don't have talaq in their hand and the man has it in his hand? Why? Huh? Emotional. If talaq was in the hand of the woman, maybe all of us would be divorced. If the woman get angry, she was, khalas, I'm done, I'm out of here. Emotional, right? Could be the time, certain times, right? A man is supposed to be more calm, collective, even when he's angry. But today, unfortunately, many of the men have regressed, right? And so we're doing things that don't make sense. You've been married for a year and you divorced your wife 3 times already. What? 3 times in 1 year? That's insane. Not good. SubhanAllah. Brothers and sisters in Islam, there are 4 pillars of good character. Anybody remember what they are? Because we already covered them. This hadith is one of them. Two Thursdays ago, we dealt with one of them. There are what we call arba arkan, 4 pillars of good character. You don't have good character unless you have all 4. The first, loving for others what you love for yourself. Loving for others what you love for yourself. That's 1. 2, saying what's good or remaining silent. We covered that 2 weeks ago. Controlling what comes out of your mouth. Number 3, من حسن إسلام المرء تركه ما لا يعني. From the good of a person's Islam is to leave alone what doesn't concern you. And number 4, today's hadith. لا تغضب, don't become angry. The Prophet ﷺ said in the authentic hadith, what means, he is not strong who can physically overpower his opponent. But the strong one is the one who can control himself when what? Angry. When he's angry. These are the 4 pillars of good character. This is what we have to teach our children. Every Muslim child should know what is good character, what are the pillars of good character. Everything you can think of that's connected to good character goes back to one of these 4. The first, wanting for others what you want for yourself. That means what? When you go to the bathroom, right? You found the bathroom clean. There was no water on the floor. There was no water on the sink. There was no water or urine on the toilet seat. That means what? Before you leave, you make sure you leave it the way you found it. Want for others what you want for yourself. Yes. You don't want people to block your driveway, you don't block other people's driveway. You don't want people to speak badly about you, you don't speak badly about other people. You would want the neighbors to notify the authorities in the event they see someone breaking in your house. You do the same for your neighbor. You do the same for your neighbor. Wanting for others what you want for yourself. This is an area that many of the Muslims are slacking in today as a ummah. As a ummah. Anyone who's been to Mecca, to Mecca here, Been to Mecca, you did Umrah. Did you go down underneath the ground to the bathrooms? You went to the bathrooms down there? Subhanallah. La ilaha illallah. Mess. You in Mecca and Mukarramah. Subhanallah. You went on the road from Mecca to Medina, you stopped in those service areas? You went to the bathroom there? Allah. La ilaha illallah. Where is the warning for others what you want for yourself?
So the government, they're gonna keep clean.
Huh? The government gonna clean. That's the mentality Muslims have today. The government, everything the government. The government gotta do this, the government gotta do that. No, we. I'm the one that used that bathroom. I'm supposed to leave it right. You go to the bathroom, you used all the toilet paper. You leave the bathroom, you leave the thing empty. You look to see if can I replenish that. Wanting for others what you want for yourself. Good character. How many of us in here have daughters? We have daughters. Huh? Someone's going to marry your daughter one day. Are you pleased with someone to insult your daughter, disrespect your daughter? No. So why you do it to someone else's daughter? Just like you wouldn't want no one to do that to your daughter, how can you do that to someone else's daughter? Wanting for others what you want for yourself. Saying good or remaining silent. Controlling what comes out of our mouths. Leaving alone what doesn't concern us. A lot of us are minding other people's business. Has nothing to do with us. And what does concern us, we are dropping the ball. We're not really taking care of that. We're not taking care of it. What's going on in our house with our children, our own children. You ever notice that when it comes to people's children, they can have the worst children in terms of behavior, but they are very patient and tolerant with their children. But when it comes to other people's children, they're not that tolerant. Those are bad kids. Is that not what we do? Other people's kids can do something that's far less evil than what our kids is doing. It will become big in our eyes, and what our children doing is small. Right? Want for others what you want for yourself. Say what's good or remain silent. And also avoid becoming angry. Check yourself. Check yourself, as they said, we used to say in the 80s, check yourself before you wreck yourself. You know? Prophet ﷺ told this man, avoid becoming angry. Avoid becoming angry, avoid becoming angry. 3 times. So how many entrances of shaitan? How many entrances that are there that he comes in? 3. What are they?
Heedless.
Huh?
Heedless.
Heedlessness. That's ghafla. You know what ghafla is? To be heedless. Absent-minded. That's what happens with a lot of us when we're watching TV all the time. Those who listen to music, those who are playing games. Heedless. You don't make those who delay the salah, don't make salah on time. Heedless. They're not mindful of the salah times. Right? Big problem in the home. By the way, brothers, there's something I wanted to point out. A sunnah. There is a sunnah that many Muslims today neglect, and that is when you come to the masjid and do the salah. The Prophet ﷺ used to do his sunnahs at home. He came to the masjid, he did tahiyatul masjid in the masjid. Why? Because the Prophet said, when any of you come to the masjid, don't sit before praying 2 rak'ah. But after he would do the obligatory prayer, he would go home and do his sunnahs. And he actually recommended that. He said, let each person leave a share of his salah for his home, for verily Allah has put khayr, a lot of good in that. When you go back home and you do your sunnahs, your children see you. Your wife see you. And when you get back home and you're doing your sunnahs, they should have already prayed already. So that's an opportunity for you to inquire. Did y'all do salah yet? That's the job of the father. You're supposed to ask, hey, y'all did salah? Let's do the salah. You have to stay on top of the house. That's the job of the father. He has to constantly be consistent with it, with the children. Because a lot of heedlessness. So these are the entrances of the shaitan, ghafla, heedless. The next one?
Desires.
Ash-shahwa, desire. Desire. And the third? Al-ghadab, anger. You have to know that. Yeah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, Surah Al-Imran, while he's describing the muttaqeen, he said, الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ وَالْكَاظِمِينَ الْغَيْظَ وَالْعَافِينَ عَنِ النَّاسِ وَاللَّهُ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Those who spend in the cause of Allah during ease and hardship, and who restrain their anger, and who pardon people. Allah also says, وَالَّذِينَ يَجْتَنِبُونَ كَبَائِرَ الْإِثْمِ وَالْفَوَاحِشِ وَإِذَا مَا غَضِبُوا هُمْ يَغْفِرُونَ. Allah says what means, and those who avoid the major sins and immoralities, and when they become angry, they forgive. The scholars extracted from these two verses that there are two things that we can do that will aid us with anger. One is to pardon, and the second, forgive. When you become angry, to pardon and forgive. Remember, why does Shaitan want you to become angry? So he can enter. We said anger is one of the entrances. And when he enters, he can do what? Anything. He becomes the driver and you are the passenger. Right? So when you become angry, if you are quick to forgive and pardon, that's not what he wants. Right? I'll give you a story to help you understand the point where I'm trying to go with this. There was a man, he let me stay in his house in Mecca. This is some years ago. May Allah reward this brother. May Allah put me this heavy on his scales. I didn't have my hotel booked, and he let me stay in his place. And that's very common over there. They don't know you, but it's trusting because it's safe. You know, it's the beauty of having security, right? He told me a story, and he told me when you go back to the States, to the people you work with, the brothers that I work with, he said, I want you to tell them this story. Anyone who has a difficulty with smoking. He said, for a number of years, I used to have a hard time. I used to smoke regularly. And he said, my wife was a nurse. And she used to always give me nasiha. She would always advise me. And he said that, I listened to the nasiha, but I still smoked. He said, then when my wife was dying, she made me promise her that I would work on this. So he said, I really tried hard to keep this promise. And he said, what I found is that any time I slipped, digress, he said, I would make tawbah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I would make wudu, and I would pray 2 raka'at. He said, after 3 times, the desire completely left my heart to smoke. And he said, Allahu a'lam why that is, but he said, I think that Shaitan was pleased with me doing the haram, but he wasn't pleased with what I did when I digressed. So he would rather me not smoke and not do those additional nawafil than to smoke and do this nafila prayer. Allahu a'lam. Allahu a'lam. The point is that when you become angry, if you pardon and you forgive, what did Allah say in the verse? Wallahu yuhibbu al-muhsinin. Allah loves the muhsinin. So when you become angry and you pardon and you forgive people, Allah loves you because of that. Shaitan is not happy with that. Shaitan is not pleased with that. So this is one of the things a person can do to help him with his anger management, if you will, right? Take deep breaths. Think about the consequences. When people become angry, they lose their minds. They don't think about the consequences. You ever seen road rage? I know you have seen road rage. You live here in Buffalo. You know what road rage is. You're driving, but the person behind you think that you're not driving fast enough, or you're not doing what they want you to do. So what do? They start acting crazy, right? And sometimes they do things that will put them in big trouble or harm other people. That's the problem when people become angry. They become so annoyed. It's like, wow, it's not that serious. These are the things that we can do, inshallah, we can work on pardoning. And 2, forgiving. Forgiving. Of course, we said the anger that is for the sake of Allah, that's praiseworthy. That's nothing blameworthy about that whatsoever. And if you're truly angry for the sake of Allah, that's not going to result in you doing haram. Right? If you're angry for the sake of Allah, you're not going to now go do something that's going to displease Allah. But it's the other anger that we experience, which is natural. As you said, al-ghadab amrun fitri. It is something natural. However, we have to be mindful that this is one of the entrances of the shaitan, and this is one of the ways we get in big trouble. We get in serious trouble. Any questions from you guys, from the children or from the sisters?
Can you repeat that for?
The 4 pillars of good character? Yes. All right. And by the way, you guys, in these lessons, I give the handout because I know most people aren't taking notes, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't take any notes. Like, I didn't put the 4 pillars of good character in the handout, you know? So you want to write those things down. So the first pillar of good character is loving for others what you want for yourself. Not just Muslims, even non-Muslims. You should want good for non-Muslims too. What's the greatest good you can want for them? What is the greatest good you can want for the kafir? That Allah guide him to Islam. Right? You want Allah to guide him to Islam.
So dua.
Make dua for them, give nasiha to them, da'wah to them, right? So wanting for others what you want for yourself. And that includes the people of your household, your family members, not just people in the masjid, not just people outside. Always remember, whatever good that you want to do, let the people in your home experience that first. As they say, sadaqah starts at home. Some of us, we are quick, we do sadaqah outside. MashaAllah, brother so-and-so is very generous. MashaAllah, he gave this. But when it comes to his home family, he's bakhil, stingy. He don't give no sadaqah to his family. He chastised them. What do you want? You ask him again? Go get a job. I told you. With the other person? MashaAllah, brother, no problem. Family, sadaqah start at home. Loving for others what you love for yourself. Pillar number 1. Number 2, saying what's good or remaining silent. In other words, controlling what comes out of your mouth. The Prophet ﷺ said in one authentic hadith, whoever can guarantee for me what's between his 2 lips and what's between his 2 thighs, I guarantee for him Jannah. Prophet ﷺ, he said that. Whoever guarantees for me what's between his 2 lips and what's between his 2 thighs, I guarantee for him Jannah. Alright? So being careful what come out of your mouth. The third thing, leave alone what doesn't concern you. If it doesn't concern you, leave it. Focus on yourself. Focus on your family. Focus on the things that concern you. And number 4 is what we talked about tonight, which is self-control. Controlling yourself. Controlling yourself. Even when you feel angry, because we're all going to feel angry at times. We're going to feel it. But to control yourself when you become angry. Alright? So these are the 4 pillars of good character. And this is something good to teach your children and ask them about it every now and then. Son, daughter, what are the 4 pillars of good character? And when they get it right, give them something. Give them some reward. Give them some encouragement. MashaAllah, ahsan, you did well. Very proud of you. Got it? You have to do that when they're young. As there's an Arabic proverb that says, "At-ta'allam fi as-sighar kan-naqshi 'ala al-hajar." Teaching someone while he is very young is like engraving in a stone. You get that? When you establish certain things in your child as a young person, they will stay with them all throughout their lives. Whereas if you didn't establish those things now, in the early years, later on it's hard to get them to do that. They're going to have a harder time adjusting. At this age, it's easier to teach them. And that's something that we should be focused on a lot. Your child's character and their adab. teaching them mannerisms now while they're young. Right? And it will stay with them. They will benefit, inshallah.
وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا.
وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. And say good to people.
Good people.
Speak good to people.
Not only Muslims,
Not
generally
just
all.
Muslims.
Generally all.
That's right. Everybody.
Everybody.
Always be someone who speaks good. وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. The Prophet said, اتَّقِ اللَّهَ حَيْثُمَا كُنْتَ. This is one of the hadith we're going to study it later. اتَّقِ اللَّهَ حَيْثُمَا كُنْتَ. Fear Allah wherever you are. وَاتْبَعَ السَّيِّئَةَ سَيِّئَةَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ تَمْحُهَا. Follow up a bad deed with a good deed and it will wipe it out. And then he said, وَخَالِقُ النَّاسِ بِخُلُقٍ حَسَنٍ. And behave with the people with good character. With good character. The Prophet ﷺ said, أَكْمَلُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ إِيمَانًا. The most complete of the believers in Iman, أَحْسَنُهُمْ خُلُقًا. Are the best of them in character. He said, مَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ أَثْقَلُ فِي الْمِيزَانِ مِنْ حُسْنِ الْخُلُقِ. There is nothing that is more heavier on the scales, talking about the Day of Judgment, مِنْ حُسْنِ الْخُلُقِ, than good character. The people knew the Prophet ﷺ for his character before they knew him for his deed. What did they say about him before he became a prophet? When they would talk about our messenger, what did they say? Muhammad al-Amin. Muhammad, the trustworthy one. And there's a seerah benefit here. There's a beautiful seerah benefit. If you look at the messengers in the Quran, when Allah mentions their stories in the Quran, every messenger, when he was sent to his people, every one of them, except our prophet, every one of them, he said to his people, Inni lakum rasulun ameen. I am to you a trustworthy messenger. Our messenger never said that. Why? Because they already said it about him. They were already saying that about him. That's why when Allah ordered him to make his da'wah public and he invited them publicly, when he went to the top of Safa and he told them, if I were to tell you that an army is coming towards Mecca to invade you, would you believe me? They said, absolutely. We have no reason to doubt you. That's why they're going to believe him. Why? Because of his khuluq, his character. When he was making the hijrah from Mecca to Al-Madinah, he left Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu behind. For what reason? Why did he leave Ali behind radiallahu anhu?
Because he has some another.
Ali, he left amanat. There are things that the people had entrusted to the Prophet. Non-Muslims, even though he's a prophet, they knew him to be what? Al-Amin. So he had some things in his possessions that belonged to the people. He told Ali, make sure that this gets back to so and so and so and so and so. This is what he's thinking about when he's on the run for his life. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So where are we with respect to that today? Especially those of us who say we are Sunni. I'm Sunni. I follow the Sunnah. We have a distorted understanding sometimes of what Sunni means. Sunni doesn't just mean the opposite of Shi'i. Sunni doesn't just mean that you believe that Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali were the four rightly khulafa. Sunni means that you follow the Sunnah. You follow Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So if you're claiming that you follow that, then you have to follow him. It doesn't mean that we're perfect. Perfection is for Allah alone. However, you claim to follow something, then be about it. Truly be about it. You know, if we follow the Sunnah the way it's supposed to be followed, many people will come to the Sunnah just because of the way they see the people of Sunnah behaving. You won't have to try to convince them. Dalil. No. They just see you way you. These guys, mashallah, they're very good brothers. They're very good. They do this, they do that. Mashallah, I want to come over there. I want to come and listen to those classes. And that's it, brother. Any other questions?
Can you just give me a practical example for number 3 for character that you were asking for? The small character,
Leaving alone what doesn't concern you?
Yeah, so just then we are concerned about that.
Worrying about what's going on in someone else's house. worrying about what's going on in other people's house. That's not your house. It's not your family. You don't live there. You don't need to worry about what's going on in other people's homes. Right? Leaving alone what doesn't concern you. This is general. You can apply it in any area in your life, even in your workplace. Leaving alone what doesn't concern you. What you're talking about. A lot of, look at the conversations that people have during the day with each other. What are they talking about? A lot of times it has nothing to do with them. They're talking about, this is one of the bad things about watching, this is one bad things about social media and American media, is most of what's on there is stuff that doesn't concern us. It doesn't concern us. There's no benefit. There's no good for our dunya, no good for our akhirah. But because we're on there and we see it so much, our minds are busy with it. We're thinking about it. Huh? So this is hopefully that's an example. Leaving alone what doesn't concern. I'll give you an example even when it comes to seeking knowledge. From the good of a person's Islam is to leave alone what doesn't concern him. In our class here, we said that means what? If you are at a certain stage where you should be learning A, B, and C, then at that stage you shouldn't be concerning yourself with X, Y, and Z. You understand? Because the Prophet ﷺ taught us that we're supposed to start with the most important affairs, the basics, and then work our way up. Right? Allah says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. They ask you about the new moons. The people came and they wanted to know, Ya Muhammad, can you tell us why the new moons start off small and then each day get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and then they get smaller and smaller? Allah never answered the question they asked. Allah answered the question that is benefit is attached to it. Right? So what he said is not لَيْسَ الْبِرْ, it's not from piety that you enter into the homes from the back door. But rather, piety, is that you fear Allah, and then he said, enter the homes through the front door. Right? Some scholars said the meaning of this is when you come to the circles of knowledge, when you come to learn, start with the basics. Don't start with the more complicated issues. You have people, they want to sit around and talk about, big affairs that are beyond their control. I'll give you an example. Right now, what's going on in Gaza? Wallahi, this should cause the heart of every Muslim to ache. Wallahi, it saddens us. It saddens us to know that our brothers and sisters are dealing with what they're dealing with there. But what is it that we have right now in our power and our ability to do? One of the things that we can do is make sure that we're doing the right thing in this world. That we are representing Islam in this country. How can you act like you're so concerned about what's going on in Gaza, but you don't pray Fajr? You don't pray Fajr. How can you be so concerned you want to go to protest, and in the last 3 months you haven't made dua privately on your own? Oh Allah, help our brothers and sisters in Gaza. How can you truly be concerned if you're not doing that? The things that the Muslim Ummah is dealing with today is not because the kuffar are strong. It's because we're weak. That's why. We're weak. We're weak in our iman. We're weak in our application of Islam. We're not doing the right things. We aren't learning from our mistakes. Look at the stores that are owned by Muslims here in Buffalo alone. You want to get hookah, shisha, whatever that stuff? The Muslims got a monopoly on that thing. Astaghfirullah. Mo's liquor. Mo's liquor.
Only this
His name is Muhammad. The liquor store is Mo's.
All Muhammad controlled that.
SubhanAllah. He has no shame. Selling beer, selling blunts, selling weed bags, all type of paraphernalia. He had no shame. SubhanAllah. So we have to put priorities in place. Yes, our hearts ache for our brothers. Wallahi. We know that these people have an agenda and what they're trying to do. We know. Anyone who studied what the Prophet ﷺ said, anyone who's read Surah Al-Isra, chapter 17 of the Quran, what Allah said about An-Nawawī and what they're going to do in the fitna, the fasad they're going to cause. We know. But what are we doing on our part? And I'm talking about the things that's within our control. You hear Muslims, they bring the ayat in Al-Ma'idah, وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. Whoever doesn't rule by what Allah has revealed, they are disbelievers. This ayat is not just for the president and the king and the prime minister. This ayat is for you and your house too. You and your house, your wife, your daughter go out, no hijab. You're not ruling by what Allah revealed. But you only want to talk about the hakim, the ruler, the king, as if he's the only one that this verse is applicable to. But you don't rule by what Allah revealed. You deal with riba. You have interest, mortgage, car note. And you talk about the Muslim ruler, but you're doing similar, if not worse. Do you not know, brothers and sisters in Islam, that these rulers, look at the history of Islam. Look at the history of Islam. Ali ibn Abi Talib, I'm going to end because we need to pray each other, and that needs to be called. Ali ibn Abi Talib, and he's Amir al-Mu'mineen. He's from the best of the Sahaba. Some of the people came to Ali and they said, Abu Bakr and Umar, they were not like you. Meaning what? Abu Bakr and Umar, they're better. Affairs were together. Abu Bakr and Umar weren't like you. Ali radiallahu anhu, he responded with beautiful advice. He said, you're absolutely right. Abu Bakr and Umar ruled people like me. And me, I rule people like you. Yeah. This is what Ali ibn Abi Talib said. Abu Bakr and Umar, they ruled people like me. Whereas me, today, we have people like you. Yeah. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم.
So,